Welcome to our deep dive into the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs Report 2025.
Oh, yeah. This one's,
You've provided some seriously thought-provoking material.
It is.
And we're excited to unpack what it means for you.
Yeah.
Imagine over 1,000 employers representing a staggering 14 million workers.
Wow.
Across 22 industries and 55 economies, all sharing their predictions about the job market over the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's the scale of this report.
It is. It's a remarkable undertaking that really captures the global pulse of the workforce.
Yeah.
And it's not just about specific jobs.
Right.
It's about understanding the larger forces that are reshaping the very nature of work.
It's like having a sneak peek into the evolution of our careers.
Yeah.
One of the most striking findings is the convergence of 5 major trends.
Uh-huh.
The first one, the digital access explosion, sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It might sound dramatic, but it's a reality that's unfolding rapidly.
Yeah.
The report reveals that 60% of employers believe expanding digital access will be the most transformative trend by 2030.
Oh.
This isn't just about faster internet speeds.
Yeah.
It's about the accessibility of technologies like AI, robotics, and advanced data analytics that have the potential to revolutionize entire industries.
It's like digital access is the bedrock upon which the future of work is being built.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
And speaking of foundations, the cost of living crisis is another major trend shaping the landscape.
Sure.
And one that hits close to home for many of us.
Absolutely. It's no surprise that 50% of businesses see this crisis as a major factor influencing their strategies.
Yeah.
Now, you might think this would lead solely to job losses as companies tighten their belts.
Yeah.
But the report actually suggests a more nuanced outcome.
This is where it gets really intriguing.
Yeah.
The report talks about the cost of living crisis as actually fueling job growth in certain areas.
Precisely. Think about it. When faced with rising costs, businesses naturally seek ways to improve efficiency and do more with less.
Yeah.
This creates a surge in demand for roles focused on productivity and innovation.
Right.
For instance, we're seeing a rise in demand for AI specialists who can streamline processes, business development professionals who can identify new revenue streams, and data analysts who can extract valuable insights from mountains of information.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating case of adaptation driving unexpected job creation.
So necessity truly is the mother of invention, even in the job market.
It seems to be.
But it's not just about economic pressures.
Right.
The report highlights a trend that's becoming increasingly critical: climate change action.
Yes.
I'm curious to hear more about how this is shaping the workforce.
Well, this is where we see sustainability shifting from a buzzword to a core business strategy.
Okay.
The report emphasizes that both mitigating climate change and adapting to its effects are top priorities for employers.
Right.
This isn't just about a few niche roles in renewable energy.
Yeah.
It's about a fundamental shift across entire industries.
So we're not just talking about solar panel installers.
Well,
we're talking about engineers designing energy-efficient buildings.
Exactly.
Supply chain managers optimizing logistics to reduce carbon footprints.
Yep.
And even financial analysts assessing climate-related risks.
Precisely, the scope of green jobs is expanding rapidly and touching virtually every sector.
Wow.
From agriculture and manufacturing to finance and technology companies are seeking individuals who can help them navigate the complexities of a changing climate and a more sustainable future.
It's really encouraging to see that green skills are becoming increasingly sought after.
Yeah.
But the report also delves into some trends that are a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
One that caught my eye is the demographic squeeze.
This trend presents a fascinating dichotomy.
Okay.
We're seeing aging populations in developed economies and booming working-age populations in developing ones.
Okay.
This creates unique challenges and opportunities on both sides of the spectrum.
It's like two sides of the same coin, both impacting the job market in profound ways.
Exactly. Developed economies grapple with concerns about labor shortages and the need to retain older workers with valuable experience.
Makes sense.
This drives demand for specialized skills in areas like talent management and even fields like geriatric care and elder-focused technology.
Okay.
On the other hand, developing economies are faced with the challenge of harnessing the potential of their burgeoning workforce.
That sounds like a massive undertaking.
It is.
It's not just about creating jobs. It's about creating the right kind of jobs that can truly leverage the skills and aspirations of a young and growing population.
You've hit the nail on the head, and this leads us to the final trend.
Okay.
Which might be the most complex of all.
Okay.
Geopolitical fragmentation.
This one sounds particularly daunting.
It can be.
The world seems to be getting more fragmented, not less these days.
Yeah, it's a concerning trend.
What are the implications for the job market?
Think about the rise of trade wars.
Yeah.
Tech decoupling and increased economic and technological isolation between nations.
So basically, countries are becoming more inward-looking.
In many ways, yes.
Okay, how does that impact jobs?
Well, this fragmentation forces companies to rethink their business models and supply chains.
Makes sense.
It creates uncertainty and risk.
Yeah.
But also opportunities for those who can navigate complexity and adapt to rapidly changing circumstances.
So we're talking about a world where adaptability and resilience are no longer just nice-to-have skills,
Right.
but essential survival traits.
Exactly. And in this environment, we see heightened demand for certain skill sets.
Like what?
For example, cybersecurity professionals become even more vital as companies grapple with increased digital threats. Individuals with strong cross-cultural communication skills are highly sought after as businesses navigate complex international relationships.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And perhaps most importantly, critical thinking and problem-solving skills become paramount.
Yeah.
In a world where the rules of the game are constantly changing.
It sounds like a recipe for both anxiety and excitement.
I think that's a pretty accurate assessment.
The world is changing rapidly, and the job market is reflecting that change.
For sure.
But the question that's probably on everyone's mind is, are there going to be more jobs or fewer jobs in this future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Is automation going to steal all our jobs like some people fear?
That's a question the report addresses head-on.
Okay.
And the answer might surprise you.
Let's hear it.
Despite all this disruption, the report actually projects net job growth globally by 2030.
That is surprising.
Yeah, a lot of people get that wrong.
I think a lot of people assume that technology is going to lead to mass unemployment.
It's a common misconception.
But the report suggests a more nuanced picture.
It's not about jobs disappearing.
Okay.
It's about jobs changing.
So how are they changing?
Well, some roles will inevitably be automated.
Right.
The report predicts that the emergence of new industries and the transformation of existing ones will create more jobs than are lost.
So it's less of a job apocalypse and more of a job evolution.
I like that way of putting it.
What are some of the specific job categories that are expected to see the most growth?
As you might expect, technology-related roles are booming. The demand for big data specialists, fintech engineers, and AI and machine learning specialists is skyrocketing.
Wow.
These are the individuals who are building the infrastructure and applications that are driving the digital revolution.
Those are the jobs that are making headlines.
For sure.
But the report also highlights some surprising growth areas, doesn't it?
Absolutely. One area that's seeing explosive growth is green jobs.
Interesting.
We're not just talking about niche roles in renewable energy anymore.
Right.
This sector is diversifying rapidly, creating opportunities for renewable energy engineers.
Okay.
Autonomous vehicle specialists focused on sustainability, and even sustainability specialists who can help companies implement environmentally responsible practices across their operations.
It's fascinating to see how the demand for green skills is permeating so many different industries.
It really is.
What about the jobs that are on the decline?
Sure.
Are there any surprises there?
Jobs that are easily automated are definitely on the decline.
Okay.
This includes roles that involve repetitive tasks, data entry, and predictable processes.
Right.
Think data entry clerks, bank tellers, and administrative assistants.
So those kinds of more traditional office jobs.
Exactly. Those are the jobs that are most susceptible to being taken over by machines.
I can see why some people might be worried about this trend.
Yeah, it's understandable.
But you're suggesting that there's a silver lining.
Absolutely. As these more routine tasks are automated, it frees up human potential for more creative and complex work.
Okay.
It allows us to focus on those uniquely human skills that machines can't replicate.
That brings us to a crucial question. If robots are taking over the repetitive tasks, what does that mean for the human skills we bring to the table?
That's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
The report delves into this skills shift, and I'm curious what stood out to you in that section.
The report emphasizes something it calls skills instability.
Skills instability.
And this is a concept I think we all need to grasp.
Okay.
It predicts a staggering 39% of workers' core skills will need to change by 2030.
39%, so like almost half.
Yeah, essentially that means that nearly half of what, today might be obsolete in just a few years.
Wow.
The days of learning one skill set for life are over.
It's a whole new world.
We're entering an era of constant learning and adaptation.
That's a wake-up call for all of us.
It is?
Imagine a classroom of 100 people and 39 of your classmates suddenly need to learn completely new skills.
It's a pretty stark image.
To stay relevant in their field.
Right.
That's the scale of the shift we're talking about.
Exactly. And it's happening faster than most people realize.
So what are the skills that are most in demand in this rapidly evolving landscape?
You'll definitely see a pattern here.
Okay.
Tech skills are huge EE.
Yeah. No surprise there.
But what surprised me was that the top skill in demand isn't coding or software development.
Really?
It's AI and big data.
Wow. So it's even more specialized than that.
It is. This really underscores how much the digital revolution is shaping the workplace.
Makes sense.
Closely following AI and big data are network and cybersecurity skills. It's clear that as our reliance on technology grows,
right,
so does the need to protect ourselves from cyber threats.
And that makes perfect sense.
And then, of course, there's technological literacy.
Okay.
The ability to understand and use technology effectively in various contexts.
So those are the tech skills.
Yes.
It sounds like tech skills are becoming the price of entry into the job market of the future.
In many ways, yes.
But it's not all about tech, right?
No, not at all.
The report also highlights the importance of those uniquely human skills we were discussing earlier.
Exactly. Those are still crucial.
So which ones are we talking about specifically?
Well, you're absolutely right. Beyond those essential tech skills,
yeah,
employers are increasingly craving those human qualities that set us apart from machines.
Right.
Creative thinking was high on the list.
Creative thinking.
The ability to think outside the box. Come up with innovative solutions and approach problems from new angles.
Yeah.
Is becoming increasingly valuable in a world where routine tasks are being automated.
It makes sense if machines are taking over the predictable work.
Right.
Humans need to excel at the unpredictable.
Exactly. And alongside creativity, we see a strong demand for resilience, flexibility, agility.
So basically the ability to roll with the punches.
Yeah, essentially the ability to adapt and thrive in a constantly changing environment.
It seems emotional intelligence and adaptability are becoming just as crucial as technical expertise.
I would say even more so in some cases.
Wow.
But this brings us to a potential roadblock.
Okay.
The skills gap.
The skills gap, right.
The report dives deep into this challenge, and it's a concerning one.
In what way?
Even with all the emphasis on training and upskilling,
right,
the demand for these critical skills is outpacing supply.
Oh, so even if everyone started learning these new skills,
exactly,
there still wouldn't be enough people to fill all the jobs.
Unfortunately, that's the reality we're facing.
That's a big problem.
It is. The report estimates that 59 out of every 100 workers will need training by 2030 to keep up with the evolving demands of the job market.
That's a lot of people.
It is. That's roughly 6 out of every 10 workers who will need to acquire new skills.
Wow. And how many of those people are actually going to get that training?
And to make matters worse, 11 out of those 100?
11 out of 100.
Imagine 11 people in a classroom
are
unlikely to get the training they need.
Wow.
Putting their livelihoods at risk.
That's a sobering statistic.
It is.
It paints a picture of a potential crisis brewing.
Yeah, it's a real concern.
If we don't address this skills gap effectively.
We need to be proactive.
So what are companies doing to navigate this talent crunch?
They're getting creative.
The report dives into some workforce strategies that businesses are employing.
Right.
What are some of the key takeaways there?
Well, the vast majority of employers recognize the need to invest in their workforce. And are implementing various upskilling and reskilling programs.
Upskilling and reskilling.
We're seeing a surge in internal training programs, online learning platforms, and even partnerships with educational institutions.
So they're really stepping up their game.
They are. They're recognizing that investing in their workforce is essential for their long-term success.
It's encouraging to see that companies are taking a proactive approach to workforce development.
It is.
But I'm curious who's footing the bill for all this training.
That's a good question.
Is it all on the employees or are companies stepping up?
The report actually breaks down the funding sources. And it's a more balanced picture than you might expect.
Really?
The majority of employers are funding their own training programs.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
That's good to hear.
However, there's also a significant portion of free training available.
Oh, that's great.
through online resources, government initiatives, and public-private partnerships.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
No, it's not. And that's encouraging.
Right.
It shows that there's a collective effort to make training accessible and affordable.
That's great to hear. It's not just individuals shouldering the burden of upskilling. There's a shared responsibility emerging.
Exactly. It's a collaborative effort.
What other strategies are companies using to adapt to this evolving job market?
Well, alongside training, there's a lot of buzz around automation and augmentation.
Automation and augmentation. So those are two different things.
They are. It's not just about replacing jobs with machines.
Right.
It's about finding the right balance between human and artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Some jobs will inevitably be automated.
Right.
But many more will be augmented by AI, creating new hybrid roles.
Interesting. So what would those hybrid roles look like?
That leverage the strengths of both.
Can you give us a concrete example of what this augmentation might look like in practice?
Certainly. Let's take the field of financial analysis as an example.
Okay.
AI algorithms can analyze vast amounts of data to identify trends and patterns that might be missed by human analysts.
Okay.
But human analysts still play a crucial role in interpreting those findings, applying their judgment and experience to make informed investment decisions.
Okay.
This collaboration between human and artificial intelligence is what augmentation is all about.
So it's not about either.
Exactly.
It's about finding the right synergy between human and machine capabilities.
It's about harnessing the best of both worlds.
But this brings us to an interesting concept.
Okay.
Proficiency gaps.
Proficiency gaps.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on what those are and why they're important in this context?
Proficiency gaps highlight the evolving nature of skills within jobs.
Yeah.
It's not just about needing more skills. It's about needing different skills. As technology reshapes the tasks and responsibilities associated with various roles.
Can you give us an example?
For example, a marketing manager in the past might have relied heavily on strong communication and interpersonal skills.
Right.
Today, those skills are still essential.
Yeah.
But they need to be complemented by data analytics proficiency.
So they need to be more well-rounded?
To understand campaign performance, social media marketing expertise, to engage with online audiences, and even a basic understanding of AI-powered marketing tools.
So it's not just about acquiring new skills. It's about understanding how existing skills are evolving and adapting to those changes.
It's about staying ahead of the curve.
It's a whole new level of workforce planning, both for individuals and organizations.
It requires a shift in mindset.
But there's one more workforce strategy I want to touch on: diversity, equity, and inclusion.
DEI.
Yes. The report suggests that companies are starting to see DEI not just as a moral imperative, but as a smart business strategy.
That's an important shift.
Can you delve into that a bit further?
Absolutely. What's fascinating is that companies are realizing that DEI initiatives can actually help them address talent shortages and gain a competitive edge.
Really? How so?
By tapping into previously overlooked talent pools,
they
gain access to a wider range of skills, perspectives, and experiences.
That makes sense.
It's like expanding the search radius when you're looking for a specific file on your computer.
I like that analogy.
You're more likely to find what you need if you're looking in more folders.
So it's not just about doing the right thing, it's about doing the smart thing for business as well.
Precisely. And the report highlights specific DEI measures companies are prioritizing.
Like what?
At the top of the list is pay equity reviews, indicating a real commitment to closing the gender pay gap.
That's encouraging.
We're also seeing a surge in employee resource groups, which provide support and community for underrepresented employees, as well as a growing trend of employing diversity, equity, and inclusion officers to drive these initiatives.
So they're putting real resources behind these efforts.
They are. It's becoming a core part of their business strategy.
It's encouraging to see concrete actions being taken to create a more inclusive workplace.
It is. It's a positive sign.
Now, with all this competition for skilled talent, the question of compensation naturally arises.
It does. Everyone wants to know how this will impact their paychecks.
The report delves into wage strategies, and I'm guessing it's a complex landscape.
It is. But there's some good news for workers.
Okay, I like good news.
The report reveals that over half of the employers surveyed
over half
expect to increase the share of revenue allocated to wages by 2030.
So wages are going up.
That's the trend. Only a tiny fraction anticipates that share to decrease.
So overall, workers are expected to see a bigger slice of the pie.
That's what the data suggests.
That's definitely a positive sign, but what's driving those wage decisions?
It's a multifaceted issue.
Is it simply supply and demand, or are there other factors at play?
While supply and demand certainly play a role,
Yeah.
especially given the widening skills gap,
Right.
the report reveals other fascinating factors.
Like what?
One major driver is aligning pay with productivity and performance.
Okay.
Companies are increasingly focused on rewarding employees who can demonstrate tangible results and contribute to the bottom line.
It's not just about showing up.
No, it's not.
It's about showing your value.
Exactly. It's about showcasing your accomplishments.
Right.
And demonstrating how your contributions translate to the bottom line.
So how do you do that?
Quantifiable metrics are your best friend here.
Quantifiable metrics. Okay.
Highlight those wins in your resume. Performance reviews. Even your LinkedIn profile.
Got it.
Make it clear that you're not just a cog in the machine. Right. You're a valuable asset who delivers results.
It's like marketing yourself as a brand.
Exactly.
You need to highlight your unique selling proposition.
And this is where networking becomes a powerful tool.
Oh.
The more visibility you have within your industry or field, the more leverage you have when it comes to compensation negotiations.
Oh, it's all about who you know.
It's about building relationships and showcasing your expertise.
Right.
If you're known for your expertise and your track record of success, you're in a much stronger position to ask for what you're worth.
It's like anything else. The more in demand you are,
Precisely.
the higher the price you can command.
Supply and demand at work.
But the report also suggests that competition for talent is playing a major role in driving up wages.
It is. Companies are realizing that to attract and retain the best and brightest, they need to offer competitive salaries and benefits packages.
So it really is a job seeker's market in many fields.
In many sectors, absolutely. And this shift in power dynamics empowers workers to be more assertive in salary negotiations.
So what's your advice?
Don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Do your research, know your market value.
Right.
And be prepared to walk away if an employer isn't willing to meet your expectations.
It's about recognizing your value and not settling for less.
Exactly.
Know your worth.
But here's something that really stood out to me.
Okay.
The report also indicates that companies are increasingly focused on reducing wage inequalities.
Yes. This is a positive trend.
Within their organizations.
It is.
Why is this trend emerging?
It's a confluence of factors, really.
Okay.
There's a growing recognition that pay equity is not just a matter of fairness, but also a smart business strategy.
Okay.
When employees feel valued and fairly compensated, they're more engaged, motivated, and productive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It creates a more harmonious and collaborative work environment.
So it's a win-win situation. Good for employees and good for the company's bottom line. Precisely.
Yeah.
And this focus on internal pay equity creates an opportunity for workers to advocate for fair compensation practices.
So how can workers advocate for themselves?
Transparency is crucial here.
Transparency, okay.
The more open companies are about their compensation philosophy and methodology, the better.
It's about creating a culture of openness and accountability.
Exactly.
We've covered a lot of ground here, exploring the trends, challenges, and opportunities shaping the future of work.
It's a lot to unpack.
It's clear that we're on the cusp of a major transformation.
Without a doubt.
And the report provides some valuable insights into how we can navigate this evolving landscape.
It's a roadmap for the future.
But there's one more thing the report made me think about, and I want to leave our listeners with this question.
I'm all ears.
The report primarily focuses on employers' perspectives.
That's true.
What about the workers?
Ah, yes, the other side of the coin.
How can we ensure that the benefits of these technological advancements are shared equitably?
That's the crucial question.
And that no one is left behind in this transition.
It's a question we'll delve into further in our next segment.
I'm looking forward to that discussion.
Me too. It's a crucial conversation.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Future of Jobs report.
It's been a pleasure.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue to unpack the implications of these trends and what they mean for you.
Can't wait. You know, as we explore this idea of equitable benefits, I can't help but think back to the report's projection that 59 out of 100 workers will need training by 2030.
Yeah, that's a big number.
It is. What struck me was the caveat.
Okay.
That 11 of those might not actually receive it.
Right, like they need it, but they can't get it for whatever reason.
Exactly. That's a substantial number of people potentially left behind.
Yeah, it's almost like a side effect of progress. Some people get left behind in the rush to adapt.
Unfortunately, that's a risk.
So what can we do about this?
Well,
the report mentions public policy recommendations. Is that where solutions lie?
The report definitely points to a need for proactive policy measures.
Okay.
It suggests that governments and policymakers have a crucial role to play in bridging this skills gap and ensuring a more equitable transition to the future of work.
So they need to step up and do their part.
They do. Their recommendations are quite insightful, too.
Give us the highlights. What are some of the key policy changes the report suggests?
Unsurprisingly, their top recommendation is increasing funding for reskilling and upskilling programs.
So basically putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. It's seen as a critical investment, not just for individual workers, but for the overall health of the economy.
Right. It's not just about individuals. It's about society as a whole.
Exactly. Think of it like building a bridge to the future.
Okay.
If we don't invest in the infrastructure, people can't get across.
Makes sense. It's not enough to just tell people to upskill.
No.
They need access to affordable and effective training programs.
They do. Access is key.
What else is on the policy wish list?
Alongside funding,
the
report emphasizes the importance of actually providing high-quality reskilling and upskilling programs.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem.
It's not. It's about creating accessible training platforms.
Right.
Offering a diverse range of courses. And making sure those programs truly meet the needs of a changing workforce.
It's like building a school.
Yeah.
You need more than just bricks and mortar.
Right. You need qualified teachers,
right,
engaging curriculum, and a supportive learning environment.
Exactly. And the report goes a step further, recommending an overhaul of public education systems.
It does. It's about equipping future generations with the foundational skills they need to thrive in a tech-driven world.
So we're talking STEM education, critical thinking, problem solving.
Absolutely. Those skills we've been discussing.
Yeah.
That robots aren't quite ready to handle.
But it's not just about technical skills.
Right, you're right. It's not. The report stresses the importance of nurturing adaptability and a lifelong learning mindset from a young age.
Okay.
It's about preparing students not just for the jobs that exist today, but for jobs that haven't even been invented yet.
That's a tall order.
It is, but it's the reality we're facing.
But it makes sense. The world is changing so quickly. We need to equip young people with the tools to navigate that change.
I agree.
Not just memorize facts that might be outdated by the time they graduate.
Exactly. It's about adaptability and critical thinking.
Anything else on the policy front?
One more point worth highlighting is the call for greater flexibility in labor market regulations.
So we're getting into some potentially controversial territory here.
We are.
Okay, what kind of flexibility are we talking about?
This includes things like wage setting flexibility, adjustments to labor laws to accommodate remote work, and even changes to immigration laws to attract skilled talent from abroad.
Those are some pretty hot-button issues.
They are.
It sounds like governments are going to have to walk a tightrope.
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah. Balancing the need to protect workers' rights.
Right.
With the need to create a more adaptable and dynamic job market.
It's about finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Where workers feel secure and companies have the agility to innovate.
Exactly.
That's crucial for a future of work that benefits everyone.
Speaking of benefits, one thing that really impressed me about the report was the emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh. DEI.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's encouraging to see that front and center.
It wasn't just a side note. It was woven throughout the entire discussion of workforce strategies.
It's a sign that things are changing for the better.
It seems companies are finally starting to see DEI not just as a moral obligation, but as a key to unlocking untapped potential.
I agree. What's fascinating here is the shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Companies are realizing that DEI initiatives aren't just about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
They're also about gaining a strategic advantage.
So it's good for business.
It is by tapping into previously overlooked talent pools.
Right.
They access a wider range of skills and perspectives, ultimately leading to greater innovation and better business outcomes.
It's like looking at a problem from every angle.
Exactly.
You're more likely to find the best solution if you consider diverse viewpoints.
That's a great analogy. And the report dives into the specific DEI measures that companies are prioritizing.
What kind of measures are we talking about?
At the top of the list is pay equity reviews.
Okay, so closing that gender pay gap.
Showing a real commitment to closing the gender pay gap, yes.
We also see a surge in employee resource groups.
We do. Those are crucial for fostering a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Which provides support and community for underrepresented employees, as well as a growing trend of appointing dedicated diversity, equity, and inclusion officers.
Wow. So they're really creating these formal roles to drive these initiatives.
Exactly. It's becoming a core part of their organizational structure.
These are concrete steps that show a genuine shift towards creating more inclusive workplaces.
It's a positive development for sure.
But I'm curious, do we see any differences in these trends across different regions or industries?
That's a good question. And yes, the report highlights some fascinating regional variations.
Okay, so the future of work is going to look different depending on where you are in the world.
It will, for instance, companies in Eastern Asia and Oceania are grappling with aging populations and slower economic growth.
So different challenges call for different strategies.
They do.
Yeah.
What are some of the unique approaches they're taking in this region?
Well, let's hear it.
They're witnessing a significant push toward automation.
Okay, to fill those labor gaps.
To address labor shortages. Yes. Coupled with a focus on tapping into diverse talent pools to fill those gaps.
Makes sense. It's about adapting to the specific demographic and economic realities of the region.
Exactly. It's about finding solutions that work for their unique context.
What about other regions?
In Europe, the primary concern is attracting and retaining talent.
Okay.
They're facing skills gaps and industry-specific talent shortages. So their focus is on upskilling initiatives.
So investing in their existing workforce?
Exactly. They're also improving working conditions.
Makes sense.
To create more attractive job environments and even exploring cross-border remote work arrangements.
Interesting. So trying to lure talent from other places.
To lure the best and brightest from other regions, yes.
It's like each region is running its own experiment in how to adapt to the future of work.
It's a global laboratory of sorts.
Trying different strategies to adjust their unique challenges and opportunities.
Exactly. And we can learn a lot from each other's successes and failures.
What other regional variations stood out to you?
Latin America and the Caribbean are confronting a particularly complex set of challenges.
Okay.
Persistent skills gaps, organizational culture barriers that hinder innovation.
So they're facing internal roadblocks.
They are.
Alongside those global trends we discussed earlier.
Exactly. And even outdated regulations that stifle growth.
So they've got a lot on their plate.
They do.
Yeah.
How are they tackling these multifaceted issues?
Well, let's hear it.
They're investing heavily in upskilling and automation, similar to other regions.
Okay.
But they're also placing a strong emphasis on updating regulations and policies.
Okay, so recognizing that the rules of the game need to change.
Exactly. It's like they're simultaneously building the car and paving the road.
I like that.
Recognizing that both infrastructure and policy need to evolve to support a thriving 21st century economy.
That's a powerful analogy. They're addressing both the supply and demand sides of the skills equation.
They are. They're taking a holistic approach.
But what about industry-specific trends?
Sure.
Are there any sectors that are really ahead of the curve in adapting to the future of work?
The report breaks down those industry-specific nuances.
Okay.
And one striking observation is the widespread reliance on upskilling.
Upskilling. So that's a common theme across the board.
It is. It emerges as the top workforce strategy in 20 out of the 22 industries covered.
So it seems that regardless of your industry, investing in your employees' skills is no longer optional. It's a necessity for survival in this evolving landscape.
It's the price of staying competitive.
But where things get interesting is in how industries approach automation versus augmentation.
Right. Some sectors like electronics and insurance are leaning heavily into automation.
Okay.
Embracing technologies like AI and robotics to streamline processes and improve efficiency.
So they're going all in on the robots.
They are. They're seeing the potential for significant cost savings and productivity gains.
Okay. What about other industries?
Others like healthcare and agriculture favor a more human-centric approach.
Okay.
Using technology to augment human capabilities rather than replace them entirely.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach?
It's not. It's about finding the right balance between human and artificial intelligence.
Right.
Based on the specific needs and nuances of each industry.
What other industry-specific insights did the report highlight?
One trend that's gaining traction across multiple sectors is the recognition of the need for dynamic job transitions within industries.
Dynamic job transitions. So basically helping people move from one job to another within the same company.
Exactly. This means helping employees move from declining roles into those with growth potential by providing targeted training and development opportunities.
So it's A more proactive and humane approach.
It is.
Than simply laying people off as their jobs become obsolete.
It's about investing in your workforce and helping them adapt.
That's definitely a win-win situation. It helps companies retain valuable experience and helps workers adapt to the changing demands of the job market.
It's a win-win for sure.
Which industries are leading the charge in this area?
Interestingly, the industries at the forefront of this trend aren't necessarily the ones you might expect.
Oh, really?
The automotive and aerospace, electronics, and real estate sectors are prioritizing internal job transitions.
Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed those.
As a key workforce strategy.
I'm curious why those particular industries.
It's hard to say for sure.
Any thoughts on what might be driving their focus on dynamic job transitions?
It could be that they're already feeling the effects of automation more acutely than other sectors.
Okay.
Or perhaps they're just more forward-thinking in their workforce planning.
Yeah.
Recognizing that investing in their employees' adaptability is crucial for their long-term success.
It's definitely a trend worth watching closely.
It is. It's a sign of things to come.
It seems like the key message here is adaptability.
Adaptability is key.
Whether you're an individual worker or a large corporation, the ability to adapt to change is paramount in this evolving landscape.
It's the only constant.
It's about embracing lifelong learning, upskilling, and finding ways to leverage those uniquely human skills that set us apart from machines.
Those are the skills that will be in high demand.
But the question that lingers is, how do we ensure that the benefits of these advancements are shared equitably?
That's the million-dollar question.
How do we prevent the skills gap from widening further and creating a society where some thrive while others are left behind?
You've hit upon the core challenge of our time.
It's a big one.
It is. And while the report offers some valuable insights and recommendations, it's ultimately up to all of us, individuals, businesses, and governments.
So it's a collective effort.
It is.
To work together to create a future of work that's not just technologically advanced, but also socially just and economically inclusive.
We need to strive for a future that works for everyone.
I love that, framing a future that's not just smart, but also fair.
It's a future worth fighting for.
But let's get back to those worker-centric concerns for a moment.
Sure.
We've talked about policy recommendations, but what about the practical steps that individuals can take to navigate this increasingly complex job market?
There are a lot of things individuals can do.
What advice would you give our listener based on what we've gleaned from this report?
Well, the first and most crucial piece of advice is to embrace the mindset of continuous learning.
Continuous learning. So basically never stop learning.
Exactly. It's no longer a nice to have. It's a necessity for anyone who wants to remain relevant in the workforce.
So what does that look like in practice?
Identify the skills that are in high demand in your field or industry.
Okay.
And actively seek opportunities to develop those skills.
So be proactive.
Be proactive.
Yeah.
There's a wealth of resources available.
Like what?
From free online courses and boot camps to more formal professional development programs.
Okay. So there's no excuse.
There's not. The key is to take ownership of your career development. And not wait for someone else to hand you the tools for success.
It's about being proactive, being curious, and being a lifelong learner.
Exactly.
Don't wait for your employer to provide the training. Go out and find it yourself.
Exactly. Be in the driver's seat.
Don't limit yourself to just technical skills. Remember those human skills we discussed earlier?
Those are crucial too.
Creativity, communication, critical thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence.
All of those.
These are all highly sought after by employers.
They are, and they're transferable across industries.
And the great thing is that these are skills you can cultivate through a variety of means, not just formal education.
Exactly. You don't need to go back to school.
So how can people develop those skills?
Read books.
Okay.
Attend workshops. Volunteer your time. Even just engage in meaningful conversations with people who have different perspectives.
So it's about broadening your horizons, both intellectually and socially.
Exactly. It's about being a well-rounded individual.
What other advice would you give our listener?
Networking is more important than ever in this dynamic job market.
Networking. So get out there and meet people.
Exactly. Connect with people in your field.
Okay.
Attend industry events, join online communities, and leverage platforms like LinkedIn to build your professional network.
So be visible.
Be visible. The more connections you have, the more opportunities will come your way.
Makes sense. It's all about who you know.
And don't be afraid to reach out to people for informational interviews.
Informational interviews. Okay.
Most people are happy to share their insights and experiences, and you never know where those conversations might lead.
It's about building genuine relationships, not just collecting business cards.
Exactly. It's about building a network of people you can trust and rely on.
What else should our listeners keep in mind as they navigate this evolving landscape?
Embrace the idea of a portfolio career.
Portfolio career. So basically having multiple streams of income.
Exactly. The traditional model of working for one company for your entire career is becoming increasingly rare.
Yeah, that's definitely not the norm anymore.
It's not be open to freelancing, consulting, or even starting your own business.
But be entrepreneurial.
Be entrepreneurial. The more diverse your skill set and experience,
right,
the more adaptable and resilient you'll be in the long run.
It's like diversifying your investments.
Exactly.
You're less vulnerable to market fluctuations if you spread your risk.
And one last piece of advice I'd offer is to embrace the uncertainty.
Embrace the uncertainty. So basically, don't be afraid of the unknown.
Exactly. The future is always unknown, but that's also what makes it exciting.
So be open to new possibilities.
Be open to new possibilities instead of fearing the unknown. See it as an opportunity for growth and discovery.
That's a great perspective to keep in mind. The future of work might be unpredictable.
It is.
But it's also full of possibilities.
It is. We've only just begun to scratch the surface.
We've delved into the trends, the challenges, and the potential solutions.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But there's one more critical aspect we need to address: the financial implications of this workforce transformation.
The money question.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll unpack how these trends are impacting wages and compensation.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
And explore practical strategies for maximizing your earning potential in the future of work.
It's all about getting paid.
We've talked about the skills you'll need to navigate the future of work, but now let's get down to brass tacks. What about your paycheck?
Yes, the bottom line.
We know that employers are anticipating a larger share of revenue going towards wages.
That's right.
But how does that translate to your individual earning potential?
That's where understanding the nuances of the report becomes really valuable.
Okay.
It's not just a blanket statement about higher wages.
Right.
It's about understanding the forces that are driving those decisions.
So it's like knowing the rules of the game.
Yeah.
If you understand the factors influencing compensation, you can play strategically to maximize your earnings.
Exactly. And the report highlights several key drivers that workers can leverage to their advantage.
I love the sound of that.
The first is the growing emphasis on aligning pay with productivity and performance.
So you're saying it's not enough to just have the skills. Right. You have to actually produce results.
Exactly. Gone are the days of simply clocking in and collecting a paycheck.
Okay.
Employers are increasingly focused on results.
Yeah.
And are willing to reward those who can demonstrate tangible value.
So it's not just about having the right skills on paper.
No, it's not.
It's about using those skills to make a real impact.
It's about walking the walk.
So how do you prove your worth?
Precisely. It's about showcasing your accomplishments and demonstrating how your contributions translate to the bottom line.
Okay.
Quantifiable metrics are your best friend here.
Quantifiable metrics, so basically numbers?
Numbers, data proof.
Okay.
Highlight those wins in your resume performance reviews, even your LinkedIn profile.
So basically toot your own horn.
Exactly. Make it clear that you're not just a cog in the machine. You're a valuable asset who delivers results.
It's like marketing yourself as a brand.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
You need to highlight your unique selling proposition.
And this is where networking becomes a powerful tool.
Networking.
The more visibility you have within your industry or field, the more leverage you have when it comes to compensation negotiations.
So it's not just what you know, it's who you know.
It's both. If you're known for your expertise and your track record of success, you're in a much stronger position to ask for what you're worth.
Well, build that network.
Exactly.
It's like anything else, the more in demand you are, the higher the price you can command.
Supply and demand at work.
But the report also suggests that competition for talent is playing a major role in driving up wages.
It is, as the skills gap widens.
Right.
And certain skills become increasingly scarce. Companies are finding themselves in a fierce battle for talent.
Yeah, they're all fighting over the same small pool of qualified candidates.
Exactly. They're realizing that to attract and retain the best and brightest, they need to offer competitive salaries and benefits packages.
So it really is a job seeker's market in many fields.
In many sectors, absolutely. And this shift in power dynamics empowers workers to be more assertive in salary negotiations.
So what's your advice to job seekers?
Don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Do your research, know your market value.
Right.
And be prepared to walk away if an employer isn't willing to meet your expectations.
It's about recognizing your value and not settling for less.
Exactly. Know your worth and don't undervalue yourself.
But here's something that I found particularly encouraging. The report also indicates that companies are increasingly focused on reducing wage inequalities within their organizations.
It's a positive trend.
Why is this trend emerging?
There's a growing recognition that pay equity is not just a matter of social responsibility.
Right. It's the right thing to do.
But also a smart business move.
So how does it benefit businesses?
When employees feel valued and fairly compensated, they're more motivated and productive.
Makes sense. Happy workers are productive workers.
It creates a more harmonious and collaborative work environment.
So it's a win-win situation, good for employees and good for the company's bottom line.
Exactly. And this focus on internal pay equity creates an opportunity for workers to advocate for fair compensation practices.
So how can workers advocate for themselves in this area?
Transparency is crucial here.
Transparency.
The more open companies are about their compensation philosophy and methodology, the better.
So basically, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to have those conversations with your employer.
It's about creating a culture of openness and accountability.
That's what we need.
We've painted a fairly optimistic picture of the future of work so far.
Yeah, I think it's important to highlight the positive trends.
But let's be realistic. Are there potential risks or downsides that we need to acknowledge?
Of course, no future is without its challenges.
So what are some of the potential pitfalls?
One of the most pressing risks is the widening skills gap we discussed earlier.
The skills gap?
If not addressed effectively, it could lead to increased inequality and social unrest.
So it's not just an economic issue, it's a social issue with the potential to create significant instability.
Exactly. Like, imagine a society where a select few possess the skills to thrive in the digital economy.
Yeah.
While a large segment of the population is left behind struggling to make ends meet.
That's a scary thought.
It's a scenario we need to avoid at all costs.
And then there's the risk of job displacement due to automation.
Right. While the report projects net job growth overall, it acknowledges that certain jobs will inevitably be automated.
So some people are going to lose their jobs no matter what.
And the question becomes, what happens to those workers whose jobs are displaced?
That's the big question.
Even if there are new jobs being created, they might not be a perfect fit for everyone.
Yeah.
And retraining isn't always a seamless process.
So we need to be thinking about safety nets and support systems for those who are impacted by these technological advancements.
Absolutely. Retraining programs are essential.
Yeah.
But they're not a cure-all. We need to consider things like income support, job placement services, and even the potential for a universal basic income to provide a safety net for those who are displaced.
So those are some pretty big policy changes.
They are, but they're worth considering if we want to create a future that works for everyone.
And then there's the question of who controls the technology that's driving this transformation.
Yes, the power dynamics.
The report hints at the potential for increased concentration of power and wealth in the hands of a few tech giants.
That's a valid concern.
Is that something we should be worried about?
It's certainly a risk worth considering as AI and automation become more prevalent.
Right.
There's a danger that a handful of companies will control vast swaths of the market, potentially stifling competition and innovation.
So the digital divide could morph into an economic divide, exacerbating existing inequalities.
Exactly. And that's why it's crucial to have strong regulations and policies in place to promote competition, protect workers' rights, and ensure that the benefits of technological advancements are shared more broadly across society.
So it's about creating a level playing field.
It is. We need to make sure that everyone has a chance to succeed in this new economy.
It sounds like we need a multi-pronged approach, investing in education and training.
Yes.
Providing support for workers who are displaced, and creating a regulatory framework that fosters competition, innovation, and fairness.
It's a complex challenge.
It is a lot to tackle.
But it's one that we can't afford to ignore.
We've got to figure this out.
The future of work is at stake.
The future of work is ultimately what we make it.
I agree.
By understanding the trends, acknowledging the risks, and embracing the opportunities, we can create a future that's not just technologically advanced, but also socially just and economically inclusive.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
A future that works for everyone.
That's a powerful vision. A future where technology works for everyone, not just a select few.
A future we can all be proud of.
And that's a perfect note to end on. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report.
We have. It's been a fascinating discussion.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring the trends, the challenges, and the possibilities that lie ahead.
It's been a pleasure joining you on this deep dive.
It's been great having you here.
I hope our listeners feel empowered to navigate this evolving landscape and create a future of work that's both fulfilling and rewarding.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Deep Dive.
My pleasure.
We'll continue to explore these critical topics as the world of work continues to transform. Until next time, keep learning, keep adapting, and keep striving to create the future you want to see.